Valkyria is a very old base and group on 2B2T. It was created in 2013 and founded by Sato 86. Today in this video, I'll be telling you the history of Valkyria from the perspective of Sato 86. Valkyria began from a temporary map event on April 27, 2013. The owner of 2B2T, Housemaster, brought the main 2B2T map down to test some plugins. For Sato, the whole event felt like an out-of-season April Fool's event. In fact, the last April Fool's event had only happened 26 days before this. This allowed Sato 86, Pyrobites, and Drew Bookman to meet with the crew from Hitler Wood, along with other names like Snacky North. Housemaster actually came to their place in the temporary map and spawned an army of zombies to try to kill the group. They eventually moved somewhere else to escape his pranks, and then the temporary map ended. Once Housemaster brought back the main map, Sato had an idea of asking the players involved on the temporary map if they wanted to reunite again. The players found the idea cool, but no one was willing to risk their own base for that to happen, so Sato took upon the task of choosing a location for all of them to meet. Using the 2B2T seed, Sato picked a location in a single-player world, which was a mountain biome with a sea nearby. However, when Sato was heading towards the coordinates, he noticed that there was a massive base nearby just 2,000 blocks away from the coordinates he picked. Thankfully, all the base members had been long gone, since Sato and the group would later find out that the members of that base left a few weeks prior to Sato finding it. The members wrote their perspective on a blog post in James Russell's blog called The Spirit of Valkyria. Back then, most players were poor, so the group used simple materials to build a place. Sato focused on making walls because he always found them a cool thing to build. He would also build the majority of structures at the base. He made a Greek storage house where they organized the materials after their last storage got burned. They kept building structures like Zero's tower near the sea. However, for a long time, they didn't have a name for the base. A player named Hinder JD initially named it the Greater Facepunch Reich, following the trend of Nazi names like Hitler Wood, but Sato later suggested to name it Valkyria, and the name stuck because it was easier to just say Valk. Eventually, on May 8th, 2013, this is how the base looked like. In the distance, you can see Drew's 3-layered farm. A player named Infiltrator was still working on his wool hut. You can see it on the far left. Zach3397 was frustrated that his building didn't look good, so Sato volunteered to build him a better place. This is what Sato managed to come up with. Zach liked it and settled there. Sato also made a bridge connecting his place across the river. The group was also lucky with spawners, since just a bit off the ocean, there was a double spawner. He and Kina Rana would spend a lot of time there, making new gear or repairing existing ones. Everything was normal until Kina Rana brought a dupe to the group. This dupe made the group from poor to rich very quickly. Also around this time, Sato would create the infamous eagle symbol. After watching a lot of building videos, he stumbled upon one video from the building group called the Syndicate Project. This group of builders could build giant cities in record time. This particular video was the first one Sato saw from them, and he was so amazed that he even downloaded the map file so he could explore the great city of Aquila. Aquila means eagle in Spanish, and in the video, you will notice the symbol we all know today, popping up many times. So he began experimenting with the eagle around Valkyria, building it around the walls and at the dock. The base kept thriving, but not for long. For unknown reasons, Drew Bookman became upset. Structures would begin to burn down, and funny enough, Drew was the only witness to any of those incidents. Drew would blame it on thunder almost every time, but there was one problem with that argument. It's usually raining while thunder happens on 2B2T, and if something were to be struck by lightning, then the rain would get rid of it almost instantly. So the base members didn't buy that excuse, but they didn't make a big deal out of it, since it wasn't a major loss to the entirety of Valkyria. There were also other incidents, like Drew taking armor from Kina Rana's dupe stash and burning more houses. This eventually made Drew leave Valkyria, since no one believed him. He went to go build his own base, and Sato would still talk to him through whispers and chats. About a few weeks later, Valkyria was griefed. At this point, many group members would guess on who did it. Drew Bookman. At that time, Sato couldn't help defend Valkyria since he was at Anatolia. Sato left Anatolia to pick up the pieces at Valkyria and help the others regroup. After this, the second incursion happens. Valkyria had so many players that not everyone was aware it was griefed yet. Some players would log into a griefed base, so Hinder JD left a sign there to inform players on what went down. The second incursion allowed Sato to meet a lot of players that he had never interacted with before, like Jack the Ripper and XCC2. And since Drew had quit the server for months without leaking the coordinates of Valkyria, Sato decided to invite everyone he met at spawn to rebuild the base. This would become known as Valkyria 2.0. The base overall became prettier and better than what it used to be. The group invited players like the Judge Holden and Cytotoxic T-Cell. Jack made his famous Atali. One day, the Pompano opened a tunnel in the middle of Valkyria that was connecting his secret underground cow farm, and he dumped about 30 to 40 cows in the middle of the base through that tunnel. Pompano would claim that they were invading the base. However, Drew came back to play again, and he eventually found out that the group were all at Valkyria. Sato eventually called him the Valkyria Council, and that was basically the moment he knew that the base was doomed. Sato knew that the base would either be destroyed or leaked to the public. Drew eventually leaked the coordinates to Pop-Up, and he showed up at the base. When that happened, Sato told everyone to leave the base. Pop-Up wasn't aggressive, but the group knew it was all over. To this day, no one knows who griefed Valkyria the second time. Some players say it was Pop-Up, some say it was Drew, and some say it was Cold Wave to prevent bigger damage to the base. But for Sato, it honestly doesn't matter anymore. Valkyria was a learning experience for Sato. He never had to manage so many players before, and he tried to be as diplomatic as possible. If there's a lesson that the base taught Sato, it's that no matter how many precautions you take and how well you manage things, you will never be in control. Control over anything on 2B2T is an illusion, and Valkyria taught him to embrace that. He knew the risk of rebuilding the base and accepted them by the time they were at the second incursion. And for Sato, it was honestly very worth it. The base held literally 25% of the online players at the time, so at most times, 5 of the group members were online building and playing there. It's one of the reasons why Sato thinks Pop-Up didn't go aggressive when he arrived, because he knew that he would be killed if he were to engage in combat. The group didn't end with Valkyria, but continued on to different bases, changing shapes and players, but still keeping the use of the eagle till this day. Thanks for watching. I would like to thank Sato86 for the information for this video. Leave a like, and maybe consider subscribing for more information like this in the future. Anyway guys, stay fast, and see you guys next time.